Hi guys, Dr. Rob Barrington here with some more nutrition advice. I've been performing a bit of a non-scientific experiment over the last few months, and I really was doing this to see what effect grains would have on my body fat levels. So I thought, as I've kind of nearly finished this experiment now, I thought I would relay the results to you in this video. What I wanted to find out really was if I started consuming a few more grains in my diet. So I don't generally eat bread, I don't eat much cereal. But if I increased the grain in my diet, what would happen to my body fat levels? I have no idea what my body fat levels are, and this was based purely on my body weight and whether I felt I was getting fatter or not. So there is a certain amount of subjectivity in this. I didn't bother with body fat calipers. I simply just went on my body weight. But I thought the results were quite interesting anyway. My diet's obviously generally quite high quality. I don't eat a lot of cereal grain. I do eat bread occasionally. I do eat the odd bowl of cereal, but it's always whole grain. It's always high quality. I just wanted to see what would happen if I increased the grain content of my diet. So for about 2 or 3 weeks, every evening meal, I had beans on toast. So 2 pieces of bread, tin of beans, and that gave me an additional 2 pieces of bread in my normal diet. I had a bowl of cereal in the evening, so it wasn't a massive increase in the amount of grain that I would eat, but I was regularly eating grains in the evening. What I found was that over the course of about 3 weeks I did slowly gain body weight. I gained about 6 pounds over about 3 weeks. Now there's no way to say that that was fat, but I did feel slightly fatter. I did feel I was gaining body fat. I didn't really feel any different in terms of my energy levels. I didn't really feel any difference, but I did feel that period of grain eating did increase my body fat levels a certain amount, and that 6 pounds I would suggest, because it was a slow incremental increase over the 3 weeks. It was if it had been a rapid increase in weight initially, I could have put it down to glycogen or water, but I think that weight certainly a large amount of it was probably body fat. It didn't make me fat. I'm generally quite lean, but I could see the difference, I could feel the difference, and obviously the scale did say that I'd gained about 6 pounds. Then for about the next 3 or 4 weeks, I eliminated all grain from my diet. So in the evening I would go back to eating mostly vegetables. My carbohydrate sources became legumes. I haven't been eating cereal like breakfast cereal in the evening. I've avoided eating oats, for example. And my body weight has reversed back to what it was before. I've lost that 6 pounds. I'm now back to my original weight. And in this period of changing my diet, I didn't restrict my calories in any way. I didn't change my physical activity. All I did was I tried to initially consume more grain, and then in the subsequent 3 weeks tried to eliminate, and I did eliminate all grain from my diet. All of the foods that I ate were high quality whole grains. The bread that I ate was granary bread. It was whole grain bread. The cereals, breakfast cereal that I would have in the evening, if I had some, would either be oats. It might be a bran flake type cereal, but it was whole grain, high fibre food. There were no low quality foods incorporated in this, so there was no additional fructose, there was no additional sugar. This was all purely down to the starch content of the diet. And this is really what I've been trying to relay to people. I do believe that grains are fattening foods. If you look at agriculture, farmers will feed livestock with grains to fatten them for the kill. It's the best way to increase the fat content of the meat by feeding large amounts of grain to the animals. Now, my experiences are very anecdotal, but I thought they were interesting, so I thought you might like to hear what I experienced. And it may not be the same for everyone. I've always tried to emphasize that diets are very individual. Some people do very well on grains, some people don't seem to do so well. I don't think I'm particularly tolerant of grains. I do think they are detrimental to a certain extent to my body fat levels, and I try to get all of my carbohydrate, my starch from vegetables, particularly from legumes. The beans that I ate were tinned beans. You could argue that perhaps the fructose, the sugar that's in tinned beans, may have contributed to that weight gain. I wouldn't argue with that, but there have been studies where diabetics have been given half a tin of beans to eat every day on top of their normal diet. They were asked not to change their diet in any way, but just to incorporate half a tin of baked beans, and it caused them to lose weight. So whether baked beans are a low quality food or a high quality food, I would suggest that a tin of baked beans is actually a high quality ready meal. I'd say it's fast food, but it's good high quality fast food. That's probably the only confounding variable in the study. Apart from that, everything else was of high quality. If you do find that you want to lose weight, but you don't want to go on a diet and you don't want to do a lot of exercise, I have recommended eating legumes and vegetables to many people, and they do find it works. There's no need to restrict calories. There's no need to worry about what you're eating or how much exercise you're doing. If you eliminate grain from your diet and you actually switch to eating vegetables, fruits, and whole foods except for grains in your diet, make sure that your protein content of your diet is quite high, maybe 30 to 40% of the energy intake. Avoid obviously the fats that are damaging to your health in the diet, so that's trans fats, oxidized fats. But generally, I don't count the fats in my diet. I make sure I have a certain amount of protein, and I make sure that I get my starch mainly from vegetables and fruits. And if you do that, I do think it helps keep you lean. And I think this is a diet that's often overlooked. I think there's too much emphasis by nutritionists on a particular macronutrient ratio. There's too much emphasis on calorie counting. There's too much emphasis on a particular type of exercise. I think selecting the types of foods is more important. And once you've established a certain amount of protein that you need in your diet, I train most days, I do weights, I do run as well. I would suggest that 40% of my calories coming from protein is probably appropriate for me, but that might not be appropriate for somebody else. It depends on the level of physical activity you do. Once you've established a certain amount of protein, I don't really bother about counting anything else in my diet. I make sure that most of my starch comes from vegetables, particularly legumes. I do eat a lot of fruit, and I don't count the fat that I eat in my diet. I try and eat red meat at least once a week for the iron content, and apart from that, I don't spend too much time analysing my diet. But one thing that I do quite strongly agree with is that grains do detrimentally affect your body fat levels, particularly in some people. Whether it's because people have different levels of insulin sensitivity, maybe there are components within the grains that are problematic in digestion for some people. Obviously, some people have celiac disease. There may be, rather than a black and white, yes I do or don't have celiac disease, there may be a grey scale there. Some people may not actually tolerate cereal grains too well. There are proteins. Gliadin is a protein in cereal grains that can cause problems with the enterocytes in the gut, so it may be there is some intolerance there, but I think it's worth trying. If you want to lose body fat and you don't want to go to the effort of lots of physical activity, of counting your calories, you find that it's very difficult to do that, you find you become hungry, I would simply adopt a high quality diet, get rid of the grains from your diet, replace them with legumes, put no real emphasis on the amount of calories you eat until you are satisfied, and as long as you eat high quality foods, I think that is a sort of diet that you can lose weight following. So that's quite anecdotal. I hope it's interesting. If you have any similar kind of stories, or you have any questions about this, there's probably something that I've failed to mention. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments box below, and as always, I will try to get back to you, and I will see you next week for another video.